Okay, it's day 46, part 6. Dewey defeats Truman. Dewey defeats Truman. I got it wrong. But I got it wrong for a good reason. I talked to Robin Gritz. I've been in conversation with her every other day or so, and she has a Hatch Act case against Andrew McCabe. So again, get out there before it comes to you rather than after. Preempt them before they come after you, especially with a bogus charge. So I left the tweet up saying, hey, he's going to plead not guilty. She had talked to him last night, and he had said, or had emailed her and said, no, we're going to go not guilty. That's why I asked the question, did McCabe threaten your child? Did McCabe threaten your son? Because something happened to Mike Flynn over the last 24 hours that caused him to sign that paper. The Mike Flynn you saw in court today, the Mike Flynn's voice, the Mike Flynn's demeanor was a broken man. He was a diminished man. He had none of the bravado and spit and gristle and shine that he normally had as the director of DIA. This was a different Mike Flynn today. It was a very sunken, collapsed Mike Flynn. And that just didn't make any sense. Something had collapsed him. I don't know if his son had called him from detention or his son had called him looking at an agreement which said you're looking at 10 years or whatever for protecting your dad, and saying he wasn't at Mar-a-Lago that night or wherever, the Essex Hotel in New York. But something happened. And I left that up there specifically to say, here's where I'm getting my information, here's where I'm getting my sources. So even though I'm wrong, Dewey defeats Truman, there's a backstory to this with Robin Gritz, which is to say that the person who is going to accuse Mike Flynn of a Hatch violation meaning we're not in power yet, we don't have the White House down there yet, so you can't make promises about what you're going to do and not do. You can't say don't escalate. Even though it sounds like the right thing to say to a Russian who's about ready to escalate, and you say don't escalate, you can't say don't escalate for another 20 days. You have to say we're going to cross that bridge when we come to it. So there's probably a Hatch Act violation here. Now, it was probably table talk. It was probably informal table talk about, well, I think you should just hang on here, don't, rush. But I'm sure somebody wore a wire. I'm sure somebody wore a wire at the Essex Hotel. Somebody wore a wire at the Trump Hotel. Somebody wore a wire at Mar-a-Lago. Wherever the behind the curtains move was, it's going to come out. And everybody's saying Jared Kushner said call the Russian ambassador. I don't think this is a big deal when you start considering Hillary taking $145 million for Uranium One. That's just what we know about. $28 million from the King of Morocco, one of the worst regimes. UAE, all the weapons deals, running all the Uranium One uranium through UAE and all the different Middle East. The spying in Congress with the Awans, and now all the connections with transport logistics to the Awans and the Awan Sporting Goods and Sialkot. I mean, the corruption starts at the Washington Monument and then circles back and forth. And Flynn made the one mistake. So I think this is obvious reprisal, and I think it's going to be perceived as such. I think Robin's going to be on Crowdsource the Truth later on today at 4, so we threw that over to Jason. Hopefully he'll run with it. Hopefully run with the idea of there is one game in town. There is one game in town. All these smears that are happening, Conyers, Matt Lauer for asking tough interview questions, Al Franken for not wanting to say Russia, Russia, Russia one more time. There's a pattern. They're coming from somewhere. They're coming from something like a fusion GPS. They're coming from collected all type strategies up there on the hill from something like the Awan brothers. No, I'm going to just say it's the Awan aspiring that's putting those things together in the dossier for fusion GPS. So hopefully those things will be discussed on Crowdsource the Truth, because that's really what's at stake here. And again, I didn't want to do this, but I am the only game in town suing Fusion GPS and Podesta Group. I am the only game in town suing the DNC for this behavior. I am the only guy in town suing McCabe. Now, Larry Klayman on Monday did sue Mueller for overextension, reckless prosecution, which I think is a great idea. Larry Klayman is a real lawyer who really sues people and really gets summons and really does depositions and really does interrogatories and does real lawsuits, okay? And they took the company from him, and then they stiffed him on his severance.